Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas.
Against the Ropes podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here. I'm alongside Christian Mosqueda. Back in the building, back for another exciting episode, Chris.
Yeah, Gio, we are a little under 30 days out, Gio, from the Canelo Crawford fight. Man, I want to ask the chat, man, as they trickle in, man, how excited are they? I know that we're a little biased, Gio. I think we've been a little. Obviously, we have our own predictions for that fight, and some of the experts have weighed in. But yeah, man, 30, a little under 30 days out, Gio. How are you feeling?
Yeah, so the undercard you see on your screen there, I keep forgetting that this is on Netflix, man.
For real.
So we won't even have to pay extra for it, right? I think it's on the regular Netflix, no weird Netflix pay-per-view, kind of like what the Zone does. The undercard is there, Chris. If you guys see it, we'll get into it a little bit. Surprisingly, I think for me, they will be broadcasting some fights on YouTube. You see it there on your screen. Marco Verde, Olympic silver medalist for Mexico in the last Olympics. Steven Nelson versus Raiko Santana, Sultan Al Mohamed versus Martin Caraballo. Reito Tsutsumi versus Javier Martinez. Ivan Dyko versus Jermaine Franklin Jr. Sorge Bochuk against Brandon Adams. That's going to be the last fight on that YouTube preliminary card. And then we'll move on to the main card. Not much there, honestly. Christian and Billy's on there against Lester Martinez. Fernando Vargas Jr. against Callum Walsh. And, of course, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. We'll get into the purses and all that, but we know when Canelo fights, he's going to get the biggest piece of the pie out of anyone. So you better pay the man. Usually the undercards aren't very stacked. You know, people are there to watch the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez.
Gio, I'm a little surprised that Bochuk and the Canada. I know it was just announced. I know it was recent, day and a half ago, but that's a fight that's going to be competitive. Obviously, people know Bochuk for being in there with the Virgils of the world. Can obviously, upsetting him in that last match. I'm surprised that match isn't moved up. Are you a little shocked by that?
I'm sorry?
Are you a little shocked that Bochuk and Cannon Adams is not, higher up with the on that undercard?
Yeah, but I think it's smart to do it the way they're doing it. They just announced this fight, so if you're trying to entice people to go over to Netflix, if you don't subscribe to it already, to go subscribe and watch the card. I think this is a good way to promote it. But yeah, I think this fight is a really good one, and it should be on any main card, probably even the co-main. Honestly, like I said, there's not much on the main card, so I'm not sure why they did it like that. But hey, I hope they still get paid a lot of money, and I hope a lot of people watch their fight. Man, it's on YouTube, so anybody can go on YouTube and watch it. Of course, this is a rematch. Brandon Adams stopped Surya Boychuk in the first one. He was coming in as the underdog. That was around COVID time, so things were a little different. Now I saw that interview as well with Brandon Adams and our good friend Trevor Sombrano. Both good friends of the show. Talking about this fight and saying that, hey, Surya Boychuk, he's a better fighter now. So they're looking forward to it, and this is a great fight.
I completely agree. I think this is a more dangerous Boychuk. Obviously, that first fight, like you said, it was already a tough fight. Cannon Adams was already the underdog, and he pulled a winner out of a hat, Gio. And so after that, it almost feels like if these guys fight, and I'm being honest, even though obviously Cannon and Trevor are friends of the show, if these guys fight 10 times, Gio, I feel like I'm going to favor both Boychuk 7 out of 10 times. No disrespect to Brandon, that Cannon Adams, but let me ask you, Gio, can Brandon do it again?
Of course he could do it again, especially he has the mental edge. He knocked out Boychuk the last time around. Boychuk, who's 26-2, 24 wins by KOs. You see there, his lone defeat by KO was to Brandon Adams, 30 years old. He's in his prime. El Flaco, as they call him, Sergey Boychuk. We know he trains out of over here, the LA area with Manny Robles. And you see his resume there recently. We talked about him being one of the top dogs at 154 pounds. He had a very close fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr. That fight was last year, actually last August 10th of 2024. Loss in a majority decision. Many people thought he should have gotten the nod. But look, he defeated the tough Brian Mendoza. And as we mentioned, that loss versus Cannon Adams, 2021, 4 years ago. So both men, I believe, are different fighters now. Man, Boychuk with some good momentum. And on the other hand, the Cannon Adams, a bit inactive. Hard to get those tough fights because a lot of guys see him as a guy who's very risky to fight, not always the highest reward. So, I'm glad this fight got made. I'm glad it's on the Canelo card, and I'm very much looking forward to this one. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, I think Brandon Adams absolutely can do it again.
I feel like this, and I'll speak for me, Gio. I feel like last time out, it was almost 60-40 for Boychuk. And obviously, we have a bias. Obviously, we're going to root for Cannon because he's been on our show. He's our boy. We talked to him. We've interviewed him. We've seen him training. So we have a little bit of a bias. How close in your opinion, are those odds? You just mentioned Cannon's been a little active, and obviously we've seen that does not usually favor a fighter, unless you're a Sugar Ray Leonard and, you're going up against a Marvin Hagler, and that hiatus, works well in your favor. That doesn't always happen. How do you, what percentage do you have this fight, Boychuk and Cannon Adams?
Well, I think Boychuk is going to be the favorite for sure. But like I said, you can't erase what happened in the past. So Brandon Adams has one victory and 0 losses over Boychuk. So yeah, I understand they're both going to be different fighters, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be that far off. I think 60-40 Boychuk, but I think in the ring it's going to be 50-50. I think the odds are going to lean in favor of Boychuk because of the tough fights he's taken at 154 and his activity. But in the ring, I think it's going to be a dead even fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think I have it 55-45 in favor of Boychuk because of the things you mentioned. Obviously, being in there with Virgil Ortiz, getting that experience, as well as, obviously, like you said,
Brian
that has a
Mendoza.
mental edge. Yeah, and Brian Mendoza. Boychuk does have, Ken Adams does have the mental edge, but Boychuk has that chip that he wants to erase. So, again, it's going to be a very compact fight again. I wish that this fight was in the top 3 alongside the Canelo, but hey, now that you mentioned that, it's a good little segue for the mainstream fans, for the for them to jump over to Netflix. But man, it's gonna be very competitive. I can see Boachuk winning a lot of the early rounds and Cannon coming with something big, man. They don't call him Cannon for no reason. So again, that was a huge statement that he did in 2021, and I'm sure with where he's at in his career, he's gonna want to make another statement to prolong his career.
Yeah, and we're taking a look at Brandon Adams' resume. If you guys remember that contender fight against Shane Mosley Jr., of course. He won that fight against Shane Mosley Jr. Took a loss against Charlo in 2019, some of his high profile fights. The TKO against Boachuk, and he's only fought 3 times since. That's very, very surprising. From 2021 to 2024, he didn't fight. And we had him on our podcast around that time a couple times, and we talked about the politics of the game, right? So, very tough for last, let's say, 4 years for Brandon Adams as far as getting fights, but this is another great opportunity. As I said, he was an underdog in that first fight as well, and he got it done. So, yeah, this is gonna be a great fight. We talked about how good Boachuk was last week when we had that conversation about the 154-pound division, where you have guys like Virgil Ortiz, Bakram Murtasaliev, now Sandra Zayas, who won a belt. Obviously, Sebastian Fundora, who might be fighting Keith Thurman. Who knows? We'll talk about that a little bit too. But it's a very, very deep division. Erickson Lubin, Boots Ennis is now there. Can't forget Israel Madrimov. So very deep division. Whoever wins is going to get one of the top dogs for sure.
And I see the chat right now, Sambano Boxing. I believe that is Coach Trevor, who is the head coach of Brandon Cannon. We're sure to have him on next week, Gio. But yeah, man, what an opportunity for him, for Brandon the Cannon Adams to get back in the mix. Like you said, politics sometimes favors the bigger names, but in that square circle, it's the ultimate equalizer. One huge night can alter not just their careers but their lives. So we'll have Trevor on next week, but as I read in the comments, he's saying Brandon isn't going to box him; he's going to push him. Very interesting. That's obviously lots of game plans going to be on display come fight night. But man, we're excited for them, and we're excited for Cannon to get this opportunity. Again, when I saw it come through my feed, through my social media feed, I was like, "Whoa, what an opportunity for them! Such a huge card." It doesn't get bigger than being on a Canelo card, Gio.
Yeah, and like I said, mental edge Brandon Adams. He's 1-0 against Boachuk. He knocked him out. So that's going to be in his head and both of their heads. All right. So yeah, don't forget that. Very exciting card or prelims, I should say, as I mentioned before. Here it is again. You have some fights on YouTube on the prelim cards, and then the main card will be on Netflix September 13th. Chris.
Yeah. And speaking about politics, Gio, to segue into the 154-pound discussion, we talked about how certain guys at 154 are not getting those fights that they deserved. This week, a lot of, unofficially, some fights got announced that they're, close to being materialized. One of them being Fundora versus Thurman. Another one, obviously earlier in the week was Boots Ennis against a Portuguese fighter who's relatively unknown, and obviously Boachuk and Cannon Adams. Just hearing that, Gio. Let's jump into Fundora Thurman. What were your thoughts when you saw that fight is near fruition?
I want to say I'm not sure why people want to fight Keith Thurman, but I have a feeling I know why, Chris. There's only one reason why, these champions will fight Keith Thurman. I think we all know that reason, but there's so many good fights out there for Fundora. Bakram Murtasaliev has been calling them off forever. Fundora refused to unify titles. If that man having to fight that Russian man Murtasaliev, so yeah, I'm not excited about that. Bit disappointed, but I don't know. I think Fundora thinks he's like one of those guys who can dictate who they can fight, or maybe as his manager. Who knows? But yeah, I wouldn't be excited to watch that fight, to be honest. Gotta keep it real, man. Look, you got Virgil out there, you got Boots out there, you got Murtazaliev out there who has a belt. You have Xander now who has a belt. Why are you fighting 37-year-old Keith Thurman?
Yeah. For me, obviously, I think you were gonna say it. It's the bag, it's the business. Um, of course, I feel like Fundora would fight any of those guys, but I feel and I think a lot of boxing fans are aware maybe that it's his management that's trying to steer him this way, trying to say Thurman is a name, trying to say that this is a good fight, safe fight, doable fight, not risky. Keith Thurman, once upon a time, Gio, I had him highly rated at the welterweight division. When names like Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford were in that mix. Keith Thurman was that one guy, in my opinion, that just had the best resume. He fought everybody in all comers. And when those guys were kind of fighting amongst each other in PBC, he seemed to be the man, outside of Errol Spence that was, standing tall. So Heath Thurman, once upon a time, was the goods at 147, but that has long, since passed, Gio. So yeah, a Thurman that I feel looked, near his top when he fought Manny Pacquiao many years ago. He's not that guy anymore, and obviously inactivity, stuff going on outside of that squared circle, plus advanced age. I don't see him, posing much danger to a Fundora who reminds me of a Mortal Kombat Goro type character. So yeah, man. Of course, this makes sense business wise for Fundora. His managers I don't want to say that he doesn't have the most faith in him, but there has to be some combination of that because he's trying to maximize the bag for the time being. I think Fundora, is a much better fighter than the one that lost to Brian Mendoza. That title will elevate that confidence. And we've seen what he's done with some of the top guys at 154. So, yeah, this one seems like easy pickings for Fundora, in my opinion, Gio.
Hey, some people in the chat might disagree with you, Chris.
What are they saying? What are they saying?
Our guy Trevor says Keith is a great fighter, especially going backwards, but Fundora has a frame and tenacity that can beat anyone. 7 Cent says Thurman is a dog and an intelligent boxer, and he switches stances and he backs up his talk. His only flaw is injuries. Let's talk about that. You see his resume there. Keith Thurman is 36 years old, 31-1, 23 KOs. He made his comeback in March against Brock Jarvis, stopped him in 3 rounds. The Australian, and that was in Sydney as well. Before that, 3 years. 3 years in between those two fights, between Brock Jarvis and Mario Barrios. 2022, he defeated him. 3 years before that, he lost to Manny Pacquiao in a split. So very inactive in the last, 6 years, only 3 fights. I think that's what hurts him. But good for him. He can get his last bag, Chris, fighting for a world title too at 154 pounds with all those names in that division. For him to get a title shot at his age with that inactivity, I think that's something. And if he gets opportunity, he should take it for sure. It's not his fault. Let's go to some more comments here. Slide Encounter says Thurman is living off his past achievements. Too much time went by and injuries, his hunger and abilities have diminished. 7 Cent says as long as Thurman is healthy, he can still remain relevant. Big bro out here also questioning what goods was he, Chris?
Yeah, hey, he's got a good resume. He's got some good W's and some good names there, big bro.
Yeah, I mean, at one point I feel like he was the guy at 147. You see his win against Danny Garcia, his win against Sean Porter. Those were 2 of the top guys there at 47. Big bro says he ducked Spence. Yeah, unfortunately, I think for him that's when Spence, became the man. That's when really Keith was kind of in and out with injuries and all that. But he had some good wins. He suffered there against Josecito. I remember that fight. The one against Pacquiao, he didn't look good at all. Pacquiao was older, became the oldest welterweight champion in that fight. But yeah, I mean, at 36, at 154, I don't have much faith in Keith Thurman. But hey, if you can get your last big paycheck, go for it. He was supposed to fight Tim Zhu. That didn't happen. And like I said, if he's able to get that title shot at 54, then good for him. I don't see him beating any of the guys in top 5, top 6, top 7 at 54. But hey, you never know. You never know. He looked decent in his last fight.
Yeah, no, let me just say I understand why the chat is very high on Keith Thurman. Again, I feel like he was one of the very top at at 147 once upon a time. And again, if he can somehow reverse that clock and give us a vintage Shane Mosley Margarito kind of moment, then maybe he could. I don't think with the injuries. Again, Shane Mosley when he did what he did to Margarito, obviously it was the older fighter against the younger kind of a machine. Obviously, we know Margarito what kind of machine he was afterwards, but if Thurman, can somehow muster some of that, then he could upset. But I just don't see it. Again, this Fundora, he's an anomaly. Again, 6'5", that range, that reach. If he takes to the body, we know that Thurman he's obviously nobody takes body punches well, but I feel like that's been a little that's been one of Keith Thurman's Achilles. You see it in fights, when he winces when those body punches hit. And so Fundora, he could be digging to that body. It could be an early night for Keith Thurman, but we'll see what happens, Gio. But again, it's a name fight for Fundora. He's getting the bag. The management knows what they're doing, but I'm gonna say that after this fight, if Fundora does what he needs to do, I think the pressure has to fall on him to fight a top 5 154 pounder. That division is too loaded for him not to fight the top guys.
Shout out to Trevor, trainer of Cannon Adams. As we mentioned, he will be joining us next week. So get your questions ready for him. That should be an exciting fight for the Cannon against Suri Bochuk. He says PBC did play musical chairs with the belt at 147, but Keith is a good fighter, borderline great, but was plagued by injuries and not being the most marketable out of the PBC guys.
I'm gonna have to watch some footage of Keith training, man. Maybe go pay him a visit. But yeah, man, again, you can never count out somebody like Keith Thurman. Again, if I had to break it down percentage wise, I would say Fundora. I feel like a lot of the general public would have this close 65 or 60 to 35-40 for Fundora. Well, what are your thoughts, Gio?
Between Keith and Fundora?
Yeah.
Fundora is a tough task for anyone, man. He's an anomaly at 54. At 54. I'm going to say like 80-20. No disrespect, Keith. I know you're watching. But, yeah. Now, Fundora's tough for anyone, But, look, I don't think this version of Keith Thurman defeats... I don't think he defeats Cannon Adams. I think you guys will get him in this moment, Trevor. I don't think he defeats even Azayas, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he defeats Tim Zhu. We know that fight was supposed to happen. So, but we'll see. I mean, I don't think we got a big enough sample size against Brock Jarvis. 3 rounds, 3 years being an active Keith Thurman. So maybe he steps up to the plate.
Yeah, and again, Keith Thurman, I've always said he's an entertaining guy inside that ring, outside the ring. He's always dropping great interviews. He's very well involved when it comes to broadcasting and the like, Gio. So he is good for boxing. Again, I just don't know with the inactivity, stuff happening outside that square circle. I don't know where he's at. Again, if he's near the peak of his powers, he's a live dog in this fight. But again, we never know with these fighters. That inactivity, does show up on fight night. So again, unless you're a Sugar Ray Leonard that you box well and you don't mix it up too much with the monster, then I give it's very rare for me to think that Thurman could pull off this upset. He's gonna have to watch a lot of Brian Mendoza Fundora tape for sure.
Man. Yeah, what else you got, Chris, on 154? What else you got? You've been out there speaking to Murtasaliev. You had an interview recently with Coach Joel Diaz. Seems like one of the hottest divisions right now. One of the reasons why I was so happy to hear about this fight being announced between Bochuk and Adams. Whoever wins, their name is going to be up there, Chris. We looked at that list last week. So what else you got at 154? You got anything else, or you want to move on?
Yeah, I think you picked a great topic right there, Gio. There's one fighter in Mortazaliyev that I feel like I gotta go interview him this week, Gio. After these fights were announced, it's almost like, he's the boogeyman being left out. Again, this is a fighter that obviously, after that destruction of Tim Tszyu, you would think, some fights were going to open up for him. Of course, we know it's a business, and we know that you got to pick those fights carefully, but it almost felt, that he was going to be giving those fights, and it's been the other way around. Again, yeah, 154 hot division. I feel like that's the most money that can be made, between the welterweight 154, 160. It is a 154. So, yeah, we spoke with obviously Coach Diaz. He's got a fighter at 154 in Madrimov. He's been in there with obviously Virgil Ortiz. He's been in there with Crawford. So as of right now, his words, he wants him to get a little bit of rest. Just take care of those injuries and come back again. We know where those titles lie, and those are fights that need to be made and need to be pressured by the boxing fans. But yes, I'm very excited to see what happens with the Trevor Camp, Cannon, and Wojciech, because one of those guys could be in line for one of those belts. Again, these are named fighters, and it's a big opportunity for Cannon. It's a big opportunity for Wojciech to get back into that mix. Again, they've tasted, being close to gaining a title, and these are perfect foils for grabbing the attention of the title holders, Gio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And once again, September 13th, Canelo undercard, Chris. Have you seen how much money these guys are making? Did you look that up yet?
We've talked about Crawford. I have yet to hear how much Canelo's taking home, unless we mentioned it in previous podcasts, but we know it's astronomical figures, Gio.
So, obviously you can't believe everything you read on the internet, but this is what's being reported at the moment. 200 million total, 150 for Canelo, 50 to Crawford. Here it says Crawford is claiming that he's only going to make 10 million, but hey, it's going to be a lot of money. That's all I know, Chris.
Yeah, it's going to be career high payday for Crawford again. The Joel Diaz of the world say, hey, I will sell the fight. I will fight Mike Tyson. I will fight anybody for, those figures. So again, career high paydays. And he said it, him, Turkey, saying that Crawford is his favorite fighter is the best thing that could have happened for Crawford. Again, that's money right there, literally. So again, I'm excited for this, Gio. Great money. I've always said it. These guys, these fighters, they risk so much to get in the ring, to risk their lives, their livelihoods, for their family, to change their lives. They deserve to get paid the most possible. So, kudos to them, and hopefully we get ourselves a great fight. I got to ask you, Gio, and I feel like I already know the answer, but have you given any more percentage to Crawford, or do you feel like it's still a wash for Canelo?
No,
There you
not
go.
at all. Might be getting whiter for Canelo. I'm not going to lie.
How much do you have it now? 80-20, 85-15? Where you at?
95-5.
Wow.
I'm being respectful,
Okay.
man. I'm being respectful.
Yeah. For me, I probably have it, I want to say 70-30. I want to be respectful to Crawford because I feel he does have the skills um, to win many early rounds. Again, we know that Canelo finds a way to win. And obviously he's got the size advantage, but he does give away a lot of the early rounds. We've seen him lose very many early rounds when it comes to boxer S type of fighters, the Amir Khans, the Rizandilaras, the Floyd Mayweathers, the Bivol. So I see him losing many early rounds, especially against somebody like Crawford. But ultimately, the way being too big. But hey, again, there's a lot of experts, and I don't know if they're going just based off the culture, based off the bias, based off just being Crawford fans, but they're giving Crawford a chance. What do you say to those people that feel like Crawford's gonna pull off a monumental upset, Gio?
For the people rooting for an upset,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna be disappointed.
Again, Gio, I brought up that Sugar Ray Leonard Marvin Hagler example. Unless you're able to pull off something like that, very rarely does the smaller fighter, even though they're exceptional, rarely do they beat a bigger fighter that's also, a great. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing, Crawford opposite somebody that doesn't back down. Again, Crawford's got that dog in him. You know that I'm a big fan of his. And it sucks to say, but he has to, fight somebody two divisions up for him to finally be tamed. But I'm looking forward to this fight again. Although I feel like we know who's gonna win, I want to see a different look to Crawford. He's gonna have to bring other layers to just stay competitive, to just stay in the game. Again, we've seen those fights, the Meldrick Taylors against the Terry Norrises. There's weight divisions for a reason, but what do you do to kind of offset that? Again, there I've always said, even in defeat, you could come out a winner. He's already going to be winning on in the bank. So his family's livelihood, his career, he's set for life after this fight. But what can you leave us in the annals of boxing history to make us say, "Hey, Terrence Crawford's a dog, and he gave it his all."
Hey, Chris, don't lie to the people, man. Crawford didn't have to move 2 divisions to be tamed. He had to move one, man. Israel Madrimov tamed him. 12 rounds. I thought Madrimov probably should have won that fight. So don't lie to the people, Chris. Come on, man.
It was competitive. It was competitive. Good fight.
Trevor says Crawford is over his head. Um, he moves and fights. This is what Canelo loves. Someone close enough to make him reach so he can teach.
Trevor knows what he's doing, man. Again, this is gonna be a very great fight. Again, shout out to Trevor. What I think one of the greatest minds in boxing. Obviously, sometimes not all coaches get their due. Shout out Coach G. Trevor up there again, one of the greatest minds in boxing right now. Hopefully, this fight puts them on the map. And yeah, man. Again, I'm excited for this Canelo card. Anytime Canelo fights Gio, it's a party, man. Let's keep it real.
Yeah. Mexican Independence Day weekend, September 13th. And look, who was asking? 7 Cent was asking, is there a rematch clause as of now? Crawford is claiming that there is not a rematch clause nor a rehydration clause. All right. So looks like it's going to be a one and done. And yeah, I'm not sure both men will get into the ring with each other again after the outcome. It's a great payday, but I don't see him doing it again. This is kind of like one of those fantasy fights, one of those Lomachenko Rigondeaux type of fights. Even though, Lomachenko doesn't get credit for that victory, they were much closer in size there with him and Rigondeaux. So I feel like Loma should get a little more credit for that one, but nonetheless, we'll see. We'll see. Canelo doesn't get credit for anything, it seems like, by half of the boxing public. So I think this should be a good show, a good spectacle. We'll be talking about it a little bit more next week and the week after that. We got a few more weeks to go, but yeah, my stance has not changed. I don't see it happening for Terrence Crawford, honestly. Um, when you look at all the guys that Canelo has fought, from Triple G to Lara to Mayweather to Cotto to Kovalev to Bivol to Jacobs, he's fought every style. Billy Joe Saunders, Callum Smith, the names go on and on. So I feel like at this point nothing is going to surprise him unless you're a natural 175 pounder, like a Bivol, like a better BF or one of those guys, right? But yeah, and what else you got, Chris, before I get into some of the comments here?
Yeah, for me, I think my final comment is when I think of these fighters and who's near the top of their powers and near the top of their peak, I would say that Terrence Crawford is closer to the peak. When I think of Canelo and when he was the best, I would say Triple G Canelo too. That was Canelo at his absolute best. If I can say what is left of that, I would say maybe 85% of Canelo, is left out of that fighter. But even then, that 85% is better than than what I think is the 90 to 95% that's left in Terrence Crawford. Again, it's a size difference, and even though Terrence will try to fill up, to a good amount, I don't think he's going to try to get too big. He's going to get to a good little medium spot. I still think that there's a size difference, that muscle difference, and Canelo's 85% is still better than Terrence's 90 to 95%, Gio.
Hey, let's go ahead and play a quick clip. If you guys haven't checked the interview with Chris and Coach Joel Diaz, I'm gonna play a short
In
clip of
reality,
it.
You, but 1 month away, are you still favoring Canelo heavily to beat Crawford?
of course. I mean, I'm not going to change. When I say something, it's because I already analyzed it. In reality, business-wise, I mean, people can see my interviews and they can comment and say something about my opinion, but that's their opinion. I respect it, but this is what I see. What I see is a Crawford that was with Top Rank and never made money, never made those millions of dollars that he deserved to make, and became friends with Turkey Al-Sheikh, which Turkey Al-Sheikh announced it publicly. Terrence Crawford is my favorite fighter of this era. He's my favorite fighter of this era. So, as friends, as business, in boxing, Terrence Crawford wins.
Yeah.
But he wins money because now, hey, you know what? As my friend that you are, I make you an offer. Would you fight Canelo? I'll give you 40 million. I don't know if it's 40, I don't know if it's 50, 60, but he's not gonna make no less than $10 million. So right there, Crawford's winning, regardless. As a fighter, like, dude, you give me 20 million, I'll fight anybody. I'll fight Anthony Joshua right now.
Yeah.
So Terrence Crawford has to sell the fight. He has to say, I'll beat Canelo, left and right, whatever, right? But we've seen it we've seen it many, many times. When fighters move up 2 divisions to beat a champion, they fail.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it with Mikey Garcia when he fought Earl Spence. I saw it when Demetrius Andre, a 147-pounder, was avoided for years. He moved to 54. He was avoided.
And you guys can watch the rest, but he also compared this fight. He said it's gonna be a Charlo type of fight, Chris. A Charlo type of fight. You guys go check it out if you haven't already. Let's go to some comments here real quick. Trevor says, as someone close with the Canelo camp, don't be surprised if he's the faster fighter that night and you don't see the Canelo from past using his speed. Yeah, and I know Trevor has a lot of experience watching the Canelo team train, sparring against Canelo, so I'm sure that will be a topic of discussion as well when we have that interview. Big Bro says Crawford can win a few of the first rounds and then get caught Khan style, he says. All it takes is one, especially with a patient, great counterpuncher like Canelo. I think it's going to be an Austin Trout beatdown, says Jamie. Here, let me pull this up. Hey, that was a good fight with Austin Trout, but Canelo caught him too. He put him on the canvas. So, yeah, man, as I said, Canelo has seen every style. I don't think a man his size will pose any threat. Obviously, Crawford used to fighting 147 pounders, 140 pounders. But they're around the same size, if you see them out in the street, but the difference is Canelo's used to getting hit versus guys like Triple G at 160 pounds, 168 pounds, Bivol Kovalev at 175 pounds. So, yeah, I'm not sure Crawford will have enough to bother Canelo. But as I said, Chris, we'll get into it, man, in a couple weeks, man. This is just the teaser right here. We have to get into that undercard. Great addition. Brandon Adams, sorry, Bocha, great addition to the card. And next week we'll get a little bit more into it.
Yeah, no, for me, Joe, I'm excited again. Less than 30 days out. We also have that in a way MJ, fight another, two of the greatest fighters of the lighter divisions going at it. So again, we're excited for both Canelo comeback, for Trevor and Cannon getting that shot, that rematch with Boachuk that could, set them up for bigger paydays, for bigger fights, career, changing fights. So again, yeah, man, we're excited. Boxing's been a little slow the last couple of months, but it's starting to heat up. Again, less than 30 days for Canelo versus Crawford, and Naoya versus MJ, and of course our boy Trevor getting in there with Ken Adams as he rematches Boachuk.
Hey, let me touch on that. Let me touch on 154 pounds because I posted this poll nearly a week ago. Question was, going back to that hot division, who was the best at 154? Uh, the options were Murtasaliev, Ortiz, Fundora, or Zayas. You see my vote there, Murtasaliev, 24%. Ortiz, 52%, the only guy without a belt out of this list. Fundora, 20%. Zayas, 4%. And a lot of the comments were saying we should add Ennis to that. But, these are the names right now. Maybe, I don't know about Zayas, man. I'm still not very convinced, but you gotta give him his respect. He has the title now. But, yeah, about half of the votes, 1,000 votes, about 500 people going with Ortiz, even though he doesn't have a belt, Chris, and probably doesn't have the resume yet at 154. But people are still very high on Virgil Ortiz Jr.
Yeah, not surprising, even though I wouldn't agree. But yeah, definitely I think Virgil is top three, arguably top two. But yeah, man, again, I'm very happy that a guy like Cannon Adams is obviously he's a guy that's been a little inactive, and because of politics, mostly because of whatever reason. But I know he's out there, looking at these lists, looking at these names, and him being at a division, he's hungry for these fights, man. There's moments where these guys are not fighting each other for whatever reason. I know Cannon wants to be one of those guys to get in the mix, and what a perfect fight, a fight that many people predicted that he would lose in that Forrest Botrick. Like, this one is it's a rematch that's giving him in his career, another life. So again, if he's able to again win and do it in great fashion, man, that 154 is open for him. And again, such names like Virgil, such names like Murtazaliev, Fundora, all those names, Madrimov. Again, what a division. And yeah, again, it's very hard right now to say who's the best. Obviously, you could say Virgil, you could say Murtazaliev, but hey, it's wide open, and even guys like Keith Thurman are trying to get back in the mix. And so again, what a time for the 154 division, and hopefully we get all of these great fights made, Gio.
Yeah, another poll that we posted as well about 2 weeks ago. Is Xander Zayas ready for the top dogs at 154? It was right after he won his belt. 31% say yes, he's ready. 69% say no. I'm not surprised by that response by the people.
Yeah. I think at 22, I would agree that I don't think he's ready to be taking that wear and tear, especially because there's a lot of monsters in that division. But I'm excited that even at 22, he wants these fights, or at least he's getting the belt that no longer tells you you can't avoid these guys. You're gonna have to fight the best. So again, I've interviewed Xander before. Great kid. I think he's great for the sport. Very disciplined team player type of guy. He's got a country behind him who's been thirsting for a Puerto Rican champion. So I think he could be their guy. And again, even though if I was his management, I would move him a little bit, carefully. Uh, hey, I'm glad we have a 22-year-old warrior that wants to chase greatness.
Yeah, and let's go to some last comments here, Chris, before shout out to 7 Set, man. Thanks for keeping that chat lit. Let's go. Before we get out of here, I do want to get into this topic of the heavyweight division. We had in my eyes, a bit surprising first round knockout. Dillian White getting KO'd by Moses Itauma. 20 years old, 13-0, 11 KOs. Definitely a name that you have to watch out for, man. Demolished Dillian White in one round.
Yeah, Joe, I've always said anybody that takes out any guy in under 5 rounds, they are levels above that guy. And I'm not saying that Dillian White is, by any stretch a great fighter, but he was a veteran. He was durable. He was supposed to give any guy coming through him a hard time. He was supposed to make guys earn it. But for him to get demolished in one round says a lot about this young man. And Again, I know that he's getting the comparisons to Mike Tyson. I think they're a little premature, but hey, man, anytime you can inject life into the heavyweight division, I'm all for it. So as of right now, Gio, he's he's giving me some promise, but I don't want to get ahead of that Jared Anderson vibes, but he looks promising, and hopefully he can, continue to grow. At 20, I feel like there's no rush. Pick your opponents wisely, keep moving up the ranks, and take off when the time is right. But very, very interesting fighter, and this is good for the heavyweight division, Joe.
Yeah, and he's not out here fighting chumps, man. Like I said, he's 20 years old. Look, he's fought a guy 10-1, 25-3, 38-10, experienced guys 22-1, 22-1, 21-1. His last fight. So, man, I'm excited. I want to see his next fight for sure.
Yeah, again, it reminds me of Anthony Joshua when he was on the top rank. So there's promise. There is something there. Let's just give time, and we'll see if this young man can revitalize the heavyweight division for the UCamp fan base, because man, they're still hoping for that Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury match. I think it's due.
Hey, man, shout out to Jared Anderson catching strays out here from Chris. Shout out to Jared, man. Big baby.
Big baby.
All right,
Yeah, I mean,
what else we got, man?
he was doing up against McCauley, man. There's no shame in losing to that monster. So you're all right. You're all right, Anderson.
All right, what else we got before we get out of here, man? Is that it?
For me, again,
today?
I think that's it for today. I'm just excited for Canelo Crawford. I'm excited for, in a way, MJ. I was able to catch MJ on the way out of his training, so we'll upload that interview, that quick interview, because we know MJ, English is not his first language, so we did that quick interview. But yeah, man, we're excited for that. And yeah, Joel Diaz and Cole get a second shot at Undisputed. We know that they came up just short with our boy Ramon Cardenas, but hey, man, they say boxing weekend, and maybe they'll do it again. Another shot at Undisputed against the pound for pound, top three. And now, in a way, is no easy task. So we'll see if MJ's up to the task.
Yeah, man. Hey, try Spanish next time, Chris. He might understand you in Spanish. He's been hanging out with those guys out there in Indio. So try Spanish.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
All right. Turkey needs to do the right thing and give Parker a shot first. Itama versus Hrgovic or Caballero next. Woo.
Turkey needs to say that the Against the Rope podcast is his favorite podcast, man. Come on now.
Sponsor us already, Turkey. I know you watch every week, man. Come on.
Hey, you're doing it for Crawford. You can do it for us, Turkey. We know you're watching.
We'll take 1% of 1% of what Crawford is getting paid, man. Come on, man. We're not asking for much. Come on, Turk.
Go, Big Turk. No, but again, thank you guys for keeping the chat lit. Thank you guys for dropping your guys' comments, man. They always keep us entertained, man. Again, boxing isn't anything without the fans, man.
Do you think Allegiant Stadium will be a good venue? I think Vegas, period, is a good venue. Yeah. I think so. Man. Yeah.
Again, Hrgovic did a great job in his last outing. Very entertaining fight, and Joseph Parker's been knocking at that door. We think he's a lot older than what he is, but he's still fairly young for a heavyweight. So yeah, there's a lot of movement that can be done in the heavyweight division, but definitely Vegas, man. They got to bring some of these fights back to Vegas. I know that they want to bring some tourism to Saudi Arabia, but take it from me, man. It's a flight. It's a flight, man. Let's keep it in Vegas.
For sure. Big Bro says Nick Ball got 2 favorable cards versus Goodman. He gets stopped by Inoue and Divino Espinosa. I'm not too big on Nick Ball, man. I'm not too big on Nick Ball. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he's British. Well, maybe it does, but I'm not too big on Nick Ball, man. TBH.
He's all right. He just gives me very B-level, vibes. And again, when we see a great from the UK, we'll call it. I just feel like he's the type to come overseas and come up short, but still a good fighter. No disrespect. I just don't think he's elite myself.
It's hit and don't get hit, man. This guy ends up with 2 black eyes every fight. Come on, man. It's not gonna work against these elite guys like Inoue. It's not gonna work, man. But yeah, I think that's it, man. And once again, thank you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for keeping it lit. We'll be back next week. Shout out to our guy Trevor Sombrano in the chat. Shout out to Big Bro. Shout out to Jamie. Shout out to 7 Cent. Shout out to all you guys who will be watching this replay as well. We'll be back next week. Like we said, we'll have our boy Trevor joining us on the podcast if everything goes right. Excuse me. We're excited for that Brandon Adams fight, that Canelo card. So yeah, a lot of good, exciting boxing in September, as you said. We got Inoue as well, MJ. So yeah, it's gonna start heating up, man. August has been a little slow for us, man. Not gonna lie. August, you haven't been good to the boxing fan, but September is gonna pick it up for us for sure. And a lot of exciting stuff coming up, man. Keep on the lookout for those interviews, those videos. We still got a lot in the canon. No pun intended, but yeah, we'll be releasing those soon.
As for me, guys, just thank you guys for always joining and dropping your comments. Appreciate the love, support. Let's go. Vamos.
Yes, sir. We're out, mates. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back soon. I'm very feel right now. I'm very feel.
Very feel. Come on, Big Turk. Come on, Big Turk.
Hit us up, Turk. You know where to find us. Peace.
Peace. Almost.
Payday. Payday.
Payday's coming. Payday.
Payday.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco AtR. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas. Un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Huge shout out to Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing. Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate it.